This episode of Yes But Why podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Download your free audiobook today at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. I'm Amy Jordan, and this is Yes But Why podcast. Yeah.
Who was the first person in this town who was like, let's do improv?
Yeah, like, and I was telling Scott Rose the whole story after the show last week, and he's like, oh, so you were like here at the beginning of Us Improv. I was like, no, there was a whole generation before me that I barely know about. But it's like, I just want to make it clear, like, there's a whole...
Yeah.
70s,
but I'm excited
80s,
to get
90s,
that. You know what I mean?
know?
Like this town is so intense when it comes to improv.
Yeah.
And I realized how much we have compared to other places when I've talked to people.
Very lucky.
Like there's a
I
lot
think
of
we have
towns
a unique
that have
history
nothing.
that is evident in our current, whatever the world is, marketplace or atmosphere or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's another little thing to chat about for sure.
Talk about business, talk about kids, talk about history.
Yeah. So what's the thing that you're working on right now? What's your jam? It doesn't even have to be like I'm working on this show, but like, is there a thing that in your performance or in your class that's been your kind of like focus lately?
Well, I'm doing GGG Glow, which is a women's wrestling musical. And it's been fun to work on that. Playing so physical. And, we just had a run through where we did a dress rehearsal and I was wearing workout clothes. And I was like, oh my gosh, when I'm on stage in my workout clothes, I move so much more. Like, that was interesting after 20 years of performing in show clothes, you know? And then in my, like, the improv concept that's churning for me right now is about what we won't accept, what's unacceptable.
What do you mean?
So like when you teach, you're teaching all about acceptance and yes and like not blocking or whatever. And I work a lot with medical communications training, doctors and medical students and nurse practitioners and customer service, front of house people, and it's about, so one of the paradoxes is using improv, which is all about embracing risk, to create safety. And I've been talking about that for a while because I think it's really real. Like, I think that's a true thing. Like having social emotional risk, allowing for high social emotional risk, allowing for low physical and safe and medical risk. Right. So the example being, if a doctor is about to cut into the wrong arm on a patient, a nurse can say, time out. That's not the right arm. So in the past, that wasn't that social risk, because of all the hierarchy, wasn't acceptable. So people in the room, so things would happen because people don't want to take the
chance to say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing. Ooh, whoa.
Yeah, so like...
That's interesting.
Right, because I'm teaching all about embracing failure in this culture where they're like, failure's not acceptable here. And I'm like, well, if you treat it like it doesn't happen or it's not, you can't acknowledge it, then this is, what you get. And then, so I've been talking about that for a few years, but then more specifically right now, I'm brewing on this idea of kind of, and I don't even know, like, I'm really bad at like crediting people. And I'm like, did I come up with this idea? I don't even know. But I feel like I did, where I noticed that like whatever you block in a scene tends to be what the scene is about. And that's part of why you have people like not block things right away, because the scene will be about the first offer as opposed to something more meaningful that could happen 30 seconds or a minute into the scene, right? So whatever you block is where the conflict is, which is where the meat of the scene becomes. So if you're like, we're at the stadium, and you're like, no, we're at the principal's office, then the scene would be us arguing that. Right? Which is not that interesting, as opposed to if we would argue about like, we should confess that we cheated on the test. No, we shouldn't. Okay, that's a more, juicier thing to. So if what you block becomes what gets things become about, then how can we carefully choose what we really block, what we really say no to? Because so much I'm teaching people to say yes to things and blend and mirror and match to smooth the wheels of interpersonal communication. But then there's some things where you're like, no, this thing is not okay.
Yeah. So
that could be something like central line infections in hospitals. Like there's hospitals where they're like, someone in power decided like, this is not acceptable that we have a 10% infection rate, and we're going to treat it like it's a plane crash, right? Instead of a car crash. Listen to the plane crash, car crash thing. So,
are they open-minded about making these changes to their culture, the medical community?
That's part of like the work I do is like, and
clearly
I've expanded this conversation to meet, because at first I was like felt flat with tons of resistance.
Sure.
And then I've worked on how and presented and the evidence and giving data and giving, to try and being specific about what risks I'm talking about, and and it's landed well. I mean, it's always like, it's a systemic challenge, so it's not fair to ask individuals. But the idea is hopefully you get enough individuals in the organization that some kind of structural change could happen.
Interesting how that is. Because when you started talking about how there is fear to say against, like a nurse to say against a doctor because of hierarchy, I immediately jumped to patriarchy. Right. In my mind. I was like, oh yeah. I mean, there's that where it's like, no, we can't change the way this is because this is the way that it is. And you're like, cool, but say it's not that way. What if it was a different way?
Right.
And the idea that, no change can happen until somebody or a group of somebody's like says, okay, we are going to do this. This is really going to be a change.
Or we will no longer accept this. And I think it's really interesting, like that way with gun control, with traffic violence, like with car crashes, like, it's an attitudinal shift of being like, well, this, car crashes are just the cost of us being able to get around, and central line infections are just the cost of being able to put in central lines, which is a life-saving thing. But it's like, but actually, no, not really. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
If
at
we
this
don't
point
accept
in our
it.
technology
and the Me Too stuff,
and our
I mean, like actually,
yeah.
Like 25% of women getting raped is not acceptable.
Yeah, not okay.
And so we're not going to,
Yeah. Wow.
But I think if you are, my concept is that if you are disagreeing about the little petty, stadium principles of things, so you're not going to be able to work on the
like any relationship,
right?
You can fight about the dishes, or you can fight about communication.
Right.
Like, what are the things you actually have to pick your battles in all points of your life?
Pick your battles is the short version of this.
Yeah. It's interesting. You were talking about how, like, when you're teaching improv, you're teaching, like, agreement and, like, acceptance and, like, letting things be. Like, that wasn't your idea, but, hey, maybe it's a good one. Who knows? Go with it.
Right.
And I wonder, because I've thought about this when I teach corporate workshops, because I definitely have to reframe it. And I wonder if a lot of it, like the attitude of positivity is great, but like the fully just letting whatever happen, I think that is, it's building off of doing improv on stage right in the moment. Like, it's like, yeah, you're using these tools because you're doing it right here. If you're going to use these tools to do something else, you could probably bend them a little and adjust them so that they fit within whatever works for you. If you're all brainstorming a marketing idea at your company, you don't have to just go, well, he said this, so we're going to take it. It's like, no, you can say, no, that's not going to sell or whatever, have a discussion that's based on that. And I think about, how there was the rejection of failure as a good thing. And it's like, but is it? You're the people who learn the most of all people. Like, and I know that I just feel like they really pack their brains with some info, the doctors and the nurses. So I'm always like, I mean, that's how you learn. So you had to have failed a couple tests here along the way. I mean, or not. Right. But it's like, I don't know.
That's, that's part of when I'm doing, like a great place that I'm doing medical communications training is when students are going from classroom learning to clinical learning. And it's like, okay, all the tools you've used to succeed up until this point are not going to be useful when you're trying to learn in a clinical setting. You need to actually, like, all the prep and perfectionism, like, you need to do things. You need to do it while you're being supervised and can learn before you're out on your own,
Yeah.
But usually what I started talking about when people are like, do I want my doctor to be an improviser? That sounds terrible, right?
Just because I know so many improvisers I would never want cutting into me.
Where you're like, what if we did this cut today? Yeah. And it's like, no, obviously on the surface that sounds terrible. Like, you want evidence-based, you want someone, you're supposed to seek a surgeon that has the most repetitions of the same exact procedure. Like, these are all, and I want those things too. So the idea is about what tool do you want at what moment. So when your very experienced plan surgeon opens you up and they see that it's not what they expected, it's not what the scans showed, then do you want an improviser who can see what's there and be flexible and adjust and communicate clearly in the moment to a team of people? Or do you want someone who's not an improviser who goes, well, close them up, this is not going how I thought it was going to go, or who does the thing anyways, not taking in the new information. So it's like, oftentimes when I talk about, like, I'm a planner, I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, and I was going to my trainings and I've got slide decks and I've got handouts and I've got curriculum. And so but I find that our planning muscles in the business world are like very strong like your bicep, and our presence muscles are very weak, like your tricep. So we just want to have all the muscles strong so we can do all the, moves we want to do. But when you work on your triceps after you haven't for a long time, it's uncomfortable. They fatigue quickly. They're a little sore the next day, but that doesn't mean that you're doing, something useless. It means, you're just working a tool that you haven't, it's gotten a little rusty,
And the triceps represent presence?
Yeah.
Meaning in a room, having presence with the people, like being able to communicate to the team?
Yeah. So, for example, if you're a presenter and a lot of times you've written your speech and you've rehearsed it verbatim and you've gone through your slides and whatever, and oftentimes that practicing will get you kind of more and more in your head,
right?
Which is it's great. There's a lot of people, especially people we know in the improv world, could benefit from some hard work and preparation.
Yeah.
But once you're in the room delivering that speech, if you're missing out on what's happening in the moment, that you're losing people, that people are confused, that people are bored, or there's something really interesting that they want to go more into, you got to use your presence skill, get out of your head, get into the space, into the room, into the other people, so that you can do your best work. So that happens a lot when I'm talking to people who like doing sales pitches or client meetings. They get very in their head about what they're going to say, and they miss out on what the client is interested in.
Yeah, what the experience of the moment is.
Right. And so the client's like, well, they were very prepared. I did not like them at all.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, your metaphor is on point. I was just trying to think of the medical, and then we went to biceps and triceps.
Yeah, I've got a whole
like,
sports metaphor tree. I've got a medical metaphor tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a tree for my metaphors, apparently. It keeps going.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was great. I was just like, wait, I want to make sure I fully grasp this whole thing.
No, thank you. And as I said, this is something that I'm kind of like teasing out right now. So that's why I was talking about it for like 7 minutes instead of 2, because it's not refined yet.
That's why I like talking about it. That's why I like, oftentimes I'll bring it up top just to start chatting, because I think that most of the people who are still active in their creative careers are so because we don't just like learn something and then go, cool, I learned it. Like, we're like, okay, but I did this project for a while. Now I'm interested in trying to figure out this thing and also doing that kind of stuff. Like, and I mean, even we were talking about the film festival I'm going to and like why I'm going. I was like, I want, like, I said it was, so I could like check out and maybe meet some people to put them on the show, but I'd also like to leave the house and speak to women, like human beings I can feel comfortable with and like really be like, what's up? Because it's hard to do that kind of stuff. And I find personally, if I don't frame it in a business way, I don't get out. Right. But the cool thing is that we can all find a way to make us better artists through learning, through meeting new people, so I always think those of us that are like really active always got some new thing that they're working on. I remember I haven't taught 8-week classes in a while. I've just been doing workshops here and there. But like when I used to do 8-week classes, every new class I'd have like a thing where I was like, okay, but this time I'm going to make sure they know this thing,
Iterative practice.
But it's just, I would taught the same stuff over and over. So I had to find a way to like reframe it.
And I want to highlight something that you were kind of saying, which is that like, as a woman, as a parent of a young kid, if the way I'm able to do my art and get out of the house is by it being like business, having your art be business.
Yeah, making it feel like I'm doing something when I leave.
Yeah, so productive. Like there's something to that, right? Yeah. So like, I think like as I'm a working single parent, like I need to, the time I'm spending away from my kids costs money, first of all. Yeah. And second of all, I need to provide for my kids. So the time I spend away from my kids should generally create income. Right. So it's really hard. Like I still have a dream of like being an improviser in a show that's just like, I'm just a cast member, and
you haven't done one of those in a while. You don't consider the girls stuff that?
Girls is like my one thing, like, and but it's more like I'm also like, we're all crew, we're all cast, we're all directing, we're all, as opposed to like, we're all having fun and we're all working, as opposed to like being cast as an improviser where you're kind of just
the person who gets to play this thing.
Playing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also interested in finding out what that's like too.
Right. Like, oh, what if I did it and I wasn't in charge? That sounds fun.
Could I do that? Let's find out.
But like, because improv is my career, I think I'm much more able to spend time doing improv than as a working parent than I would if it wasn't my career.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you've done an excellent job to make it your career, and it seems to be going really well. So,
and Girls, thank you. And Girls, which is the longest running improv troupe in Austin currently, longest current running, oldest all-female troupe. And I'm one of the founding members. And like, that is something like, we rehearse Sundays from 4 to 6, period. I mean, it's changed a little bit over the years, but like when I got pregnant, when I had babies, when I've had losses, like it's just something on the calendar. It's accounted for. It's going to happen. I get babysitting for it. And that consistency, that thing where is really helps, I think, when you're dealing with parenting and everything kind of falls away.
Yeah.
As you focus on your little one.
Yeah. It's a weird situation. How old are your kids?
They just turned 5 and 7.
Whoa.
I have a vision of doing an it gets better video. Like they do for LBGT youth, where they're like adult, queer people are like, it gets better, you'll find your tribe. Yeah. And it's just like, I want to make a video. I always mean to do it in time for Mother's Day for like new moms. It's like, it gets better. Yeah. You will take a shower uninterrupted. You will have a complete thought. You will sleep through the night. Your kids will wipe their own butts. Like it does. It really,
yeah.
I mean, everybody has their favorite like age, and some people are baby people. Like, sure. I'm not a mega baby person. I mean, I love my babies, but like,
sure.
that kind of labor was I found very physical and menial and draining and all those kinds of things. So
yeah.
I think 4 and 6 are freaking delightful. Like, you can have conversations with them and like share books and movies with them. And it's like, there's a lot of nice things.
Yeah. They say 4 is when they like kind of
wake up. A lot of make-believe.
Like
yeah.
One
a
of the,
personality.
What is it? There's the id, the ego, and the super ego. Before 4, they're just id. Just id the whole time. They just like, what am I going to do? It's like, cool. That's what I'm trying to keep, like when we were talking earlier about like how I, what you did as a kid. I have the theory of, what you did as a kid. Like, I want to pay super attention to my own child and so that I can help him if he hits a wall. I'm like, well, he's played with this thing, maybe this.
Right.
Like, you were very interested in these things,
Right.
Before, when you're 4, you can tell me things, but before that, it's like, I just get to watch and be like,
right.
Really enjoys that kind of thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, then at 4, they start to like, I think, get the ego. I don't know if the super ego comes in yet, where it's like, first they're like, oh, I am Amy. It's me. That's what I do. But I don't know if they have that third voice where it's all like, hey, don't touch that or whatever yet.
It's
weird how that kind of idea.
It depends on different kids. I have a very considerate 5-year-old. So at 3 and 4, I'd be like, Max, do you want to snuggle? He'd be like, if you want to. I'd be like, what? He's like, yes, I would. Would you? I'm like, what? He's amazing, though. I mean, like, he's not a regular dude. Very, very thoughtful. Very like, how are you doing, Mommy? Oh, it was so great. I can't. They have a very treasured toy right now. Top toy is called Beyblade. It's what they got for their birthdays. It's all they love. And so I've been working with them on like, especially my 5-year-old who loses. I mean, I'm like, I need a water bottle factory for how many like water bottles we lose. And so I've been teaching him about like, okay, you got to put this back the same place every time if you want to use it. So he'd really been working on him putting it away in his cubby every time after he plays it. So, because he lost 2 Beyblades and it was like the end of the world. So anyways, I had a friend come over while they were at school and I showed her the Beyblade. I was like, here's the thing that the kids are really into. And I got it out and I spun it and I left it out. And then he came home and he was like, what is this doing out? And I was like, Max, I played with your Beyblade while you were at school. And he was like, you are not allowed to do that. You were supposed to put it back where it belongs. And then so beautifully, my 7-year-old Sebastian goes, Max, Mommy works hard all day. She deserves a chance to play too. Ah! I was like, thank you. God. Thank you.
That's so great.
I know.
Oh my God.
And I just love the idea that like they both were having a conversation about like, Mommy needs some downtime. She needs to be able to get out the Beyblades and just blow off a little bit of steam. She's working hard all day.
I like the idea that your older son like telling a friend like, hey man, you gotta let your parents play.
They need that,
man. They
need
to relax. I mean, what do your parents do?
Can't do work all day.
I don't know if Law and Order really is it. So funny. He's so smart. I love this kid.
I know.
Oh my God, that's super hilarious. I really enjoy that.
They're great.
Oh, that's funny. What was I going to say? Your kids sound great. I've never wanted 2 kids more than just now after that story.
Yeah, when they start to have like conversations with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, I mean, I'm sure if you're a parent of 1 2-year-old, the amount of repetition that you have to do when you're playing with young children is mind-numbing. So when you have 2, they will have a similar usually tolerance for that. So they'll do the same games over and over and over.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. My kid's a little weird. He plays with a few things on his own, and then he gets bored, and he goes off and plays with another thing. He just kind of like...
Sometimes only kids are very independent that way. Kids are their own person.
Totally.
Like, they just come out who they are.
Right? Ugh. I think about that, like, and now here's a person I get to steward. Yeah. Like, I don't know who he is. He'll let me know.
It'd be great to get to know him.
Like, so, what do you like?
What are you into? You like bunny rabbits? You like tops? What do you like?
Yeah, it's so funny. Because his dad buys him all sorts of different things. And sometimes he'll be like, yeah. Anyway, you're like, oh boy, baby did not love that thing. Sorry, buddy. I'll try to work it in later.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, man. So, I mean, I feel like other than your girls stuff, how did you get out of the house? Like, what was the first way that did you like just, have you always had the corporate workshops rolling so well that you were able to like have that daytime stuff? Are they just in school? Like, do they just 5, that's first grade.
Yeah, right? they're in pre-K and kinder right now. And, but they went to preschool. And I've had Merlin Works, my company, since 2003.
Yeah.
And that was like started off as just like ad hoc classes here and there, and then in 2008 we opened the improv school at Salvador Vanguard Theater. And so I was there for a while until I had Sebastian in 2012, and so I had some corporate, but I had the classes mostly in the evening. Which was hard. And I was like, kind of my plan when I was pregnant, people were like, well, it's so great that you're like self-employed, so you can like have flexibility and ramp down and ramp up or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And so I kind of planned on like having other teachers teach and kind of moving the brand away from my personal brand. And that just totally did not work. Like, my business was in the toilet within 4 months of having my first Sebastian. So, my only Sebastian, having my Sebastian. So...
It's amazing that you named your children the same name. I mean, really great. Sebastian 1, Sebastian 2.
Some people do Junior, and I just have one name. Yeah. What was it? George Foreman, right? He has like 5 boys named George.
I feel like it's got to be alive, but maybe it's the truth. I don't know.
So the challenge being, I mean, I think the benefits so far in my life with my luck, entrepreneurship has been incredibly rewarding, both personally and artistically and financially. But the idea that you can you could step away and come back after maternity leave doesn't work if your company doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're at working at IBM and you take maternity leave and IBM still's up and running and they've got all the work for you when you come back, you know? So, and that kind of timed out at SVT with the time when they were losing their space. And, or maybe it timed out with also my kind of partner, Shana McCormick, who ran the shows through Gannap Theater. He was ready to kind of step back from that role. And so I think I had this choice of like, okay, you've got a 6-month-old. Do you want to like take over the whole thing and work even more, even though your business is in the toilet? And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to close up shop. And I was ready to be done with it. And then I was pushing my stroller with my mom, and I ran into my friend Karen Lachelle, who is the executive director at Creative Action, and who I used to work with when I had lots of side hustles. And I was like, yeah, I'm closing up Merlin Works. And she was like, no, you're not. Let's have coffee. We'll figure this out. And we did. She was like, we brainstormed and came with this idea of like talking to Nat Miller at Zach Theater and seeing if maybe I could use space there. And I moved over to Zach, and I ended up having like, it really improved the credibility for my corporate business and for classes, and it's been great.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad you had that friend there.
I know.
That's so nice.
And it was a good lesson to me, and like, you have
so
to.
Great. Ladies take care of each other.
I know,
Good
right?
job.
I know.
Just like warms my heart in so many different ways of like her being like, nah, we are going to figure this out.
It's like, it's too important.
Bless
what you
her
do.
heart.
Yeah,
man.
she's amazing. And we both, and what's great is that Karen Lachelle was also in my prenatal yoga class when my water broke with Max. She's got a son a week younger than Max. So she helped me with, and it's crazy being in a room full of 30 pregnant women when your water breaks. It's like, you know, like
the rest of them are all like, maybe.
I know what's happening. This is real. So she's been there for me at several major turning points in my life. One lesson from that for me is like, obviously about having relationships and support. But another lesson is like about how I could not imagine a different path until I was really ready to let go of the current thing.
Like you couldn't figure out how to fix what was going on with the business until you like fully let it go, and then all of a sudden it was like, or maybe.
Right. Yeah. And that
Fascinating.
kind of like all is lost, or like that really letting go thing opening me up to, and you really have to put something at risk to be able to like see new possibilities or have new behaviors or outcomes.
I'm fascinated by that idea because at this point in my life, it's kind of, my lessons are focused on long-term relationships. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a lot of like close friends. Like, I have a ton of acquaintances and stuff, but you know, with my husband and stuff like that, like the idea of like, okay, how are we going to work this for another 20, 30 years?
Right.
Like, I don't intend on dying soon. So let's see what's going to happen with this. And, you know, I was never a long-termer dating. So,
how long have you been with your husband?
Let's see. We have been married for almost 7 years, but I think that means that we've been together for like 10 years because we dated for a while. I forget the whole dating thing.
Right.
My husband tries to like say, well, you trained your brain to do this, but my brain is so Etch-a-Sketch that like once some new milestone happens, the rest of it's just like a vague memory of nothing. Like I'm like, yeah, it was a fun time, right? It's like, guys, I was great at dating. It was just easy. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. My life has been fine. It's like, what?
I have a similar thing, and I think it actually, like, I think I have several, like, innate traits that make me a good improviser. Yeah. And, like, being able to let go of the past is one of them. Like, the show's over, and I'm like, oh, it's fun. What's for dinner? Or whatever. What are we going to drink? Or what are we going to, you know, I know a lot of people have that woulda, shoulda, coulda on the drive home, and that's just not, like, sometimes I do a highlight reel, but that's the most, like, it's just not naturally where my brain goes. And I think that's a blessing if you want to do improv.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm one of those people who you walk off the stage and somebody says, like, oh, my God, that egg scene. And I'm like, nothing. I don't even know. What happened? Tell me about it. You liked it? What did I do? Like, you can watch the video. No. If I'm on, like, a workshop, I'll watch the video. Like, if that's the point, like, I'll be like, okay. But, like, not regularly. Yeah. No, I was like, the whole point. Like, whenever I was coaching troops, some of them would be like, are you going to take notes during the show? And I was like, why? No. It's like, this is your fun part. we're going to do the work part, and now you're going to blow off steam on stage. I go, this part is more fun for you than the audience, and our job is to figure out how to make it as fun for them as it is for you. So go have fun. Yeah. Because that's step one. Yeah. You know? Yeah. But like, my brain just kind of, I'm always afraid it's like cold, because I'll be done with the show and I'll just be like, all right, next thing up.
Cold. Like everybody else is in it, like wants to, you know, the guys from 3 for All give it this great metaphor of like, you know, giving notes right after a show is like giving notes right after sex. Yeah. It's just not the appropriate time. Mm-hmm. It's like you just had a very exciting and intimate experience and you just want to like cuddle a little bit and just enjoy the afterglow. Yeah. And then, you know, maybe have a cigarette or a drink or whatever, you know, like it's not feedback time. No. Yeah. I agree. So it might be cold if you're like, I'm out, but you know, as opposed to like, that was great, that was fun, I like you. Yeah, maybe. Let's do that again.
I'll try to add those phrases in.
You're important to me.
Yeah, I'm all like, all right, you guys did it. Good job. See you next week.
I got my purse on already, and have a good night.
I'm halfway out the door. See you guys later. Put the props away. Yeah. All right. Sorry for the real, actual thing that I actually did. Everyone that was in the neighborhood ever. But I think about that like with reference to projects, because like it's like you build something, you have fun with it, and then you move forward. So when my like current project is this like long-term relationship with this dude, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a different kind of muscle. And I think about like, and the reason why I brought it up, because my brain's crazy, is the idea of like your business and like how that goes and how we don't, I'm doing it. I say to the audience who knows exactly what I'm about to do, I have a theory of life. Okay. And I tell everyone what my theory. Okay. This podcast should just be called
Please reference episode.
Every episode.
14, 12,
so many.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I have a theory that every 18 years you become a new person. That it's like a natural growth cycle. Kind of like
your cells are every 7 years or something like that.
Yes, but it's less about maybe it is your cells. That would be wonderful. It's also a moon cycle, which is a little too hippy-dippy for me. Uh-huh. It's 18 because the first cycle of your life is childhood. Right. You're a child at 18. You either go to college, you leave the house, something happens where you begin the next part where you are now you and you are creating whoever that is.
And then 36.
So at 36, 18 to 36, that's your first try. That's your like, hey, how did adulthood go? You figure that out? Right. I bet you failed a lot. I bet your 20s were terrible on all fronts. Right. But you had a lot of fun and you had a lot of apartments. How'd that go? You know, like there's so many different things where like when I meet a person who's 24 and they haven't figured it out and they're upset about it, I'm like, oh my God, what are you worried about? Right. You're 6. Like, you're not
a baby adult.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that right now.
And then when you're 36,
so 36 to 54, right? Okay. So you're on a new journey. You develop this new like. Because this is where a lot of people have, like, midlife crises and whatnot. This is where a lot of people... Because there's no, like, direct path. There's no, like, okay, now... Because you're different. You've learned things. We're different than who we were at 25. We're different than who we were at 30. Like, we've learned stuff. Stuff is different. We've made new decisions. We're in a different situation. And we have to deal with it as our new selves. But our new selves also have to develop this new dream and excitement. I mean, when you're a little kid, you are who you are. And then by 18, hopefully you've channeled it enough to make it your major in college or something, right? And then maybe by 36, you've made a career of the thing that you really want to do. But once you make it a career, what do you do after that? Right. And I think the idea, not only of what we were talking about earlier, like constantly being curious and open to that, but also that we have to accept that there are times when we do have to fully shut it down, when we have to let go and be at the lowest point and say, I don't know what I'm doing right now, and let it rise up again. Like, allow it. You're not mad at a baby.
I was probably like 30, around that age, 34, 35.
right when you like changed the whole thing and like reformed it, and now it is like your new way you're giving to the world. I mean, look at all the stuff we've talked about thus far. You're like not just doing improv, you're like helping to solve the ills of the medical community. Like that's a real thing that is super helpful, because I'm sure there's so much going on there. I mean, just so much. There could be a 12 podcast just about it.
Right.
But it's like the fact that you're going in with your kind heart to like help them be better, and even caring enough to adjust and find a new way to communicate to them.
Right.
Do you know about the Alan Alda stuff?
So I went to the Alan Alda Center.
Tell me everything.
The Alan Alda Institute for,
Did you take a class?
Alan Alda Center for Communicating Science.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you more questions, please.
I did. I've been there several times. I did a kind of train the trainer there, and fantastic. Met Alan Alda once.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
What's it like there? What are they? So you like took a class to learn how to do what they do, or?
Yeah, kind of. So I mean, they really. Their model is about, pairing an improv expert with a medical or science expert to kind of co-facilitate. And ideally also, they do a lot about media, because they're about public relations and stuff. So helping scientists get funding or grants or press or whatever, spreading, science advocacy. So they give that kind of that 3-part training. Which is fantastic. And so the best thing that happened was that Dr. Rob Millman, who's a retired radiologist here in Austin, he went to the Alan Alda Center about 5 years ago, and he got really fired up about all of that. And he was like, I want to do this in Austin. And they were like, well, then you need to find an improv person in Austin to do it with. And he found me. And he called me up, just found my website, called me up out of the blue. And funny enough, I was waiting for radiology results for my son Sebastian, and it was hi, this is Dr. Millman, I'm a radiologist. I was like, yes, what's wrong? What's the diagnosis? He's like, no, I'm
sorry, not that guy.
I'm like, oh yeah, nothing's wrong, fine. Business. I'm a business lady. And so we partnered together, and then he brought me to the Alda Institute, and he helped kind of, for a while there was a great relationship between the Alan Alda Center for Communicating Science and the UT Center for Health Communications. So I've been working with Rob now for years. We're going to Dallas tomorrow to do a training, and we both have appointments at the Center for Health Communication in the Moody, which is a joint department between Dell Medical School and the Moody College of Communications. And I also do some training at Texas A&M with that as well. And we went to the Applied Improv Network conference and got to talk about it some. So it's great, and he's open. He brings a lot of credibility to the work because has the letters MD after his name, and he's opened a lot of doors for me and has been a great advocate for the work, which is super valuable. Wow. Yeah.
I am super impressed now.
Oh.
It's I wrote them and was like, how do I do this? How do I get involved? And they're like, we're not hiring right now. And I'm like, it's not about that.
Yeah.
I just want to, can you give workshops? Can I come for 2 months and learn?
Right.
Because I was thinking about Houston. I was like, dude, there's so many doctors in town.
Yes. Yeah.
There has to be something.
Yeah.
We'll talk. I was like, I am talking to you about this more off air. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, I have been down since I heard that he was starting to do that. Because he's one of the originals, as far as improv goes.
Oh yeah.
And
the way he articulates this work is amazing. I mean, I've been talking about this for 20 years, but he's such an advocate for the power of improv and acting work for medical and science professionals. And what's happening is that there's obviously improv is becoming a more popular modality for corporate training to connect with millennials and such, but also this other thing that happened, which is part of Obamacare, which is that there's something called HCAPS, which is that basically customer satisfaction surveys are now part of how hospitals and doctors get paid. And this is relatively new. So now hospitals and doctors are like, wait, we need to be nice people. Because this involves our pay now.
Oh my God, I wish I knew that. I would have filled out so many more surveys.
I know, yeah. So that's
God.
why you might be getting more surveys when you go to the doctor and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I just thought it was
so
like...
there's now a financial incentive to bring people like me in because it actually affects their reimbursement rates.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I actually got for the first time... about a month or two ago, I rounded in a hospital with doctors who had lower HCAP scores to coach them individually. And it was crazy.
Wow.
I mean, it was it was an honor. It was eye-opening. But after I went into about 5 different hospital rooms, I had to tell my client contact, I was like, hey, I know this is normal for you guys, but I don't normally go into hospital rooms. Like I need a little break I was overwhelmed. It was intense, and they were like, oh, of course. Right. Okay. Yeah. I was like, yeah. Okay.
You're like, how I have this special skill that helps you be kind? My little kind heart needs to go sit and have a soda and think about sweet things. I'm going to look at these pictures of cats for a little bit.
Yeah. My empathy muscle is about to pass out.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
Whoa.
It was great though. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is so amazing.
It is, right?
Yes. That is so interesting.
And it's interesting because these people are like, I've been doing trainings where most of the time I'm the least educated person in the room.
Wow. I mean,
right? But I have a particular set of skills.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, I don't know, job training, I don't know, life skills.
And that's but how I started, at the Hideout, that was my first job out of college. And I was teaching the classes. I opened the school and I'm 21 years old. I'm 5 feet tall. I'm a woman, and I'm teaching everybody in the room is older than me and more educated, and I'm
but you're not intimidated by that.
I think it took. I also didn't have the credit. I was just starting to teach improv classes.
Sure,
so
but you jumped right in, right?
I did it, but I think
you got it going.
Well, yeah, but I think that I had a journey where it was I was working hard. I was very prepared. I was studying and reading and learning a lot, but I was also really focused on delivering value for my students. And then I think it took me probably 5 to maybe 10 years to be oh, they want to have fun. And that's kind of the point. And they're not actually here for me to teach them things.
That's because you're equal businesswoman with improviser and that part of your brain wouldn't shut up. So it's okay. You banked all that info and you were able to use it later, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey. And when I felt like I had, how it is when you actually feel like you have the credibility, you don't have to try as hard and then things get better because improv is all about not trying too hard.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting. Earlier we were talking about, teaching people that were new to the whole thing. And I wonder if there's a different way of teaching experienced improvisers such that they're already built in to have some of that, like you're saying, there's a credibility. Mm. And it's okay, you've established this, but what does that mean in a world where we're literally starting from scratch every time? Mm. Let's see. And then you have to discuss things in a new and different way. Mm. Do you, and maybe you don't, because I don't know. Do you work with a lot of experienced improvisers? Do you teach the earlier levels or the later levels of your own classes?
I generally teach intro. I used to always just teach the 101 intro class. Yeah, definitely my favorite. I liked to meet everybody that was coming in the school.
Sure.
And kind of touch them metaphorically. Training my future peers the way, I want them. But
well, plus you were the figurehead. You're the figurehead, right. So it's nice for them to meet you and feel comfortable, and then they're like, I will support the rest of everything she tells me.
Yeah.
Because
and it was also a business decision because my name would fill classes as well. So once those classes are one-on-ones happening, then it was easier, to say, okay, here meet Ted. Meet Tyler, meet Jill. They're awesome. You're going to love their class too. But because not just because I have children, but this is the butt kicker is I have the public school thing is what's really kicked my butt, which I'm just like, 8 months into public school, which is, I have to wake up now at 5:45 a.m. to get my kids to school by 7:40 a.m.
Yeah,
daycare,
they go
you used
early.
to be able to kind of meander in around 9 and, see ya. And it's like hard deadline 7:40 in the morning, which is tough for me.
You don't love the early
and I'm
mornings?
sure everybody, but what it means is that teaching a class till 10 at night is no longer like really functional for me. I'm kind of like, nothing fun happens after 9, so no thanks. So
you're right. If I'm not in bed by 10 every night, it's a terrible, terrible next day.
Yes, exactly. I was like, well, why would I plan that in my schedule? So what's great is I have Kevin Miller is the dean of the improv school, and he's been working with me to be flexible and kind of let me teach in the ways that work for my funny schedule. So I do a little bit of improv singing. I just taught like an improv singing advanced class, and I do a little bit of troupe coaching, but it's not my fave. So I think, I don't know exactly. Your question is like, how do you teach advanced improvisers differently?
Well,
than
I mean,
improvisers?
if it was something that you notice. If it's not something that's part of it's fine. No worries.
I think like,
because we were talking about a lot of the people that we've been discussing, the different groups, the corporate groups and the one-on-ones.
Right.
They're all new to it, so you all have to introduce it. And like we were talking earlier about the idea that like when you're teaching the people who are going to perform it on stage, there's a lot of like, hey, just let it be. It's cool. Let's accept everything, And I find when you get improvisers later, there's a lot of, oh, this is where it is. Back to the beginning. You were talking about what not to do, right?
Mm-hmm. What you can't accept.
Yeah, the things you need to avoid doing. There's yes and until there's not. Mm-hmm. And and like what could happen. Mm-hmm. Here's a sidebar from me explaining what I'm talking about. I interviewed this guy, and he was teaching a workshop called How to Be an Ally. And it's like essentially a workshop about how to be more sensitive to the other players that you have around you, especially in instances where you like get thrown into a stranger group. And a lot of the cities, this guy, Stephen Davidson, lives in London, and there it's not like one place where like you go and there's your people. It's like everyone kind of mashes all the time. And so he might be playing with a bunch of people he doesn't know, and there has to be a shorthand. So he's been teaching workshops to as many people as he can, so that the whole community is sensitive to each other and like allows for not triggering and does, but able to be closer and do stuff. And so it just made me think of that when we're talking about, working with troops for a little while and what you can't do and that kind of stuff.
Right. It's interesting because I definitely like follow on social media and stuff about, all the stuff that's happened in the last few years with, sensitivity and trigger and Me Too and inclusion and diversity and all that stuff. And like, and people, reporting about like this happened to me in improv and that and the other and whatever. And a lot of times I feel like I'm so lucky in that I live in this bubble that I created. So I'm in Girls. I'm a founding member of that troupe. I've had my own improv comedy school. I have my own corporate training company. I don't have a lot of serious long-term clients. Like a lot of it's kind of short-term pop-in stuff. So I get to and I hire my teachers, and I get to pick I could say to clients. So I kind of have created this world. I'm not, what I'm trying to say is like, I'm not encountering a lot of the stuff I am hearing about.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Everybody's super nice and supportive. And if anything weird happens, everybody's like, don't do that. Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I have a similar situation where every time I hear it, I'm like, oh no. But people are nice to me. Oh no. Is this what privilege is? Damn it.
Yeah, I know. I'm in charge. Like a lot of,
I didn't know.
Yeah. So, and it's totally real and it totally happens.
Yeah.
But it's not something I've had to grapple. I mean, I in my early improv career, I did have I felt, I struggled a lot with being a woman in comedy and all that stuff, but not for a long time.
Something that I often put out there with the younger gals, because I'm in a lot of lady Facebook groups.
Yes, me too.
And I'm always like, guys, you don't have to care what everybody thinks. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this guy's a jerk. Okay. Don't talk to him then. Right. Like, there's a lot of people in my life where, like, I guess it's similar to what we were talking about with shows, where it's like, if I meet a person who is just terrible, I don't go, how can I deal with this in my life? I just go, well, I'll see you later, and never speak to that person again. Like, there have been instances even here where when I was in charge of the student base, I had to kick people out for various different reasons. Yeah. Sometimes because they were terrible. Right. Like, not terrible improvisers, but like terrible to people. Yeah. And it was like, I don't have any, and people were like, is that scary? And I was like, well, I mean, a little, but mostly it's just like, don't come here. Go, don't.
This isn't working.
You're doing something that is not okay. And that's over now. Okay, bye-bye. Right. Like, and I just don't, then I let it go, Yeah. And it's just like, okay. I mean, and I again, with the Etch-a-Sketch brain that I have, I'm like, yeah, maybe there were some tough times, but I don't know about them.
Well, I will say,
my brain is lovely, made them into...
Right. I think there's a flip side of that. So, like, I tend to work with people I really respect and trust, and when I delegate things, they're, like, gone from my brain. That's what I feel like delegation is. But I've also learned over time that, like, that's my default, but sometimes I need to be more hands-on when I delegate, and I need to check in. That's an effort for me, because there's some things where I'm like, how has this still not happened? Yeah. Like, I'm like, what? And I was like, oh, if I was keeping an eye on this, I would have 3 months ago realized that this was not working. But I was just like, oh, they're taking care of it, whatever it is, So I have to, one of my beliefs is that, like, every strength is a weakness. So, or your strengths are your weaknesses, or your weaknesses are your strengths. So, being able to let things go and forget things is a beautiful strength, and also a weakness.
And my husband hates it.
Right. Yeah. He'll tell you why it's a weakness. Yeah. He's like, didn't you remember we talked about this last week?
It's not even last week. It's like our first date or something. And I'll be like, what do we do? Where do we go? He'll tell me, like, what I was wearing and what I ate for dinner. Right. I don't have any idea. He's like, wait, what? It was a restaurant? Really?
I wonder if there's some, like, science behind, like, being really in the moment and not holding on. Is it, like, not going into long-term memory because you're in the moment, the next moment, the next moment, the next moment? Or is it, like, I don't know. I've often thought, like, do I need to go to a hypnotherapist and find out if something terrible happened that I've just blocked out? I've trained my brain to block out everything. But I was like, nah, no, it seemed fine. I'm good.
Right now, I feel like I had a good childhood. Everybody in my family was nice to me, and most people are nice to me now. I don't want to change that. That seems fine. Right. Just because my husband's a little concerned I didn't know he wore that green shirt to our first date, he'll get over it. Yeah. So a little bit ago, you mentioned that right out of college, did you go to UT? Uh-huh. You started working at the Hideout, and you got that school started. How did that happen? Like, what got you there?
So I started in I think it was 97 or 98. I took a ride I got a ride from Jeremy Sweet Lamb and Michael Joplin to the Velveeta Room to audition for the Monks Night Out farm team. They were a very popular troupe that played improv troupe that played at Velveeta, and then they had, like, kind of sub troops that they would sometimes pull people from, So I was cast in a troupe called Los Paranoias with Jeremy Sweet Lamb and Chuy Zarate. And David Lampy was one of our coaches, and Pam Ribbon was the coach of that team. Pam Ribbon, who is now the writer for, I don't know, Moana, and she's the voice of, like, Snow White in the new Ralph Rex the internet thing. I mean, anyway, she's amazingly. She's the biggest Austin success story that nobody knows about. So I want to give Pam Ribbon a shout out.
Okay.
But we would sit and run 3-line scenes for hours in the Velveeta room while Lampy smoked in front of us, and Pam held her clipboard or whatever. But it was great. It was like drills and stuff. So after that, and we were in the Big Stinkin' Comedy Festival, which was the big comedy festival back then. Then David Lampy had me join the Oxymorons down in San Antonio, which was their big improv troupe. And I got my first time getting paid to do improv, and they would give you cash at the end of the night, which was like fun money. Like, what? You know? And then
never heard of that.
I know. Yeah, and this was like they would give you $40-$60, and this is in 1998.
Wow.
I was like,
that was millions of dollars back then.
So
the 90s.
There was just so much money everywhere. And then Lampy brought me to callbacks for the troupe that ended up being the Heroes of Comedy, that was founded by Sean Hill, who helped open the Hideout. So I was in that troupe for like a year and a half or so. By the time we were opening the Hideout, I was kind of like, started my improv at Dad's Garage in Atlanta, which is a theater sports group. And Sean was trained in the theater sports style from Bay Area Theater Sports, Bats Improv in San Francisco. So we were kind of kindred spirits improv wise. And yeah, I helped with like some of the gutting of the Hideout and the opening of the new space. So my job first was managing the theaters, opening the improv school, teaching the classes, playing the shows.
A couple of things.
Yeah, I would look at all these other when I'd be able to go see another play, I'd be like, look at all the people on staff at this theater. There's like 4 or 5 of them.
I had a couple of years like that too, where I was like, wait, more than one person is in charge of the Hideout? I don't understand. What's a team?
I know. But it was a wonderful opportunity. I got to learn so much. And I got a lot of opportunity. I mean, just things I don't know. I was very lucky to get those, to be able to teach, to do corporate training for the first time there. I got paid very little, but I learned a lot. And then eventually went out on my own to open Merlin Works. So I had to open around 2000, and then Merlin Works was like 2003. Yeah.
Why did you decide to go out on your own? Was it like because of you were interested in different styles? Was the Hideout also, perhaps the Hideout wasn't doing it. The Hideout was doing like short form stuff and Johnstone Improv, or did the Johnstone stuff come with the newer?
No, they were. The Hideout was doing theater sports, Maestro, Guerrilla Theater, those like original theater sports kinds of formats, more or less. 6 Degrees, stuff like that. But we were doing narrative right from the narrative long form from the beginning. Dan
Is that what you guys do at?
Came out and gave us a training before we opened and all that stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But Merlin Works is not entirely just narrative, right? Because you get the musical element, and then is there just some straight montage?
So kind of putting on my business lady hat, after, working at the Hideout, I saw that the classes were the most lucrative. The classes in the corporate were the most lucrative part of the business. And I was grinding it out there doing all the theater management or whatever, all that stuff. So I kind of was like, and my mom was an entrepreneur, and she had her own business since I was 6 years old. So I had a good role model for for all of that. So I was kind of like, okay, I don't want to run a space. The space seems to be like a 24-hour drain. You're paying for 24 hours. It needs you 24 hours. I was like, I'm gonna pay hourly.
Like right now, there's literally no one in this building.
Yeah, but you're paying for this time.
Exactly.
Right?
Lights are on.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
So I want to pay hourly for space, and at least at first, and then take the most lucrative part, the classes and the corporate training. So Merlin Works for a long time was just classes and a little bit of corporate, and slowly the corporate kind of grew over time, and now the corporate is like 80% of the business and the classes are like 20% of the business.
Dude, good for you.
Yeah, which is great. And we rent hourly at Zach, which we're very lucky to have, so we always have income covering whatever our expenses are. And I understand, and basically shows are an advertisement.
Yeah.
So shows are an advertisement for classes. And a little bit an incentive for classes, like I want to graduate. But so we have a monthly show there, and usually it's some student showcase or graduation of some sort, some guest troupe, and then the Known Wizards, which is the Merlin Works faculty troupe, and that's like every second Sunday. And usually we end up doing kind of a montage, which is I like to call a flowy donut, which is old Jeremy Sweetlam, Austin Improv lingo. Yeah, so mostly we kind of just jam, but I think a lot of the musical improv classes, which we have 6 levels of now at Merlin Works, is partly because of my background with girls, and improvised musicals. So we do a lot of musical stuff sometimes in our shows, but
yeah,
it's more just like it should be reward playtime for the teachers. So we're not usually working on anything. We don't really rehearse. We don't really. It's just show off time.
Yeah,
playtime.
But it's great because you're right. I mean, it absolutely is just an advertisement of like, would you like to see these amazing players teach you some stuff? Like, and that's such an awesome thing.
Would you like to hang out with these people?
Yeah. How do you like the
this
Zach
kind of
Theater?
fun?
Legit. What's up? You could be here just saying on the stage.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
I
wonderful.
did not like the grind of trying to put butts in seats, 5 times a week. That's a hard grind.
A downtown location is not easy either.
Yeah.
Like just the sheer, how do you fill up this space?
Yes. Yeah. And it's been amazing here. I mean, I've been to the Fallout. I had a few shows here recently, and it's flipping awesome. You guys are kicking butt.
I'm so glad that you've had shows here. I was literally going to ask if you had ever been here before. And the reason why was just because of the previous situation where it was not really a friendly place. Even though because just the sheer fact that I've lived here 10 years and been doing improv for 10 years, and the fact that we are just meeting
right
is
crazy.
Yeah. Now there's all sorts of wild things about this particular space, but I'm so glad for you that you were able to take the stuff that you learned when you started with the Hideout group to be like, okay, thanks for the info. I'm going to do my own thing. Because, I mean, I can see that we're kindred spirits because you're all like, I just do stuff and people are nice to me. And I'm like, oh, me too. And then it's like, turns out somebody needed to do every job. So I did it. I was like, cool, me too.
Yeah.
I am not afraid to talk to all these strangers about this stuff. Me too. I love it. Just in the 101s, just the idea of that and getting them in and the whole, the fact that not only is your corporate end way more lucrative, yay, but wonderful for the work that you're doing with the medical community and whomever else is booking you. Right. They need it. The rest of the world doesn't realize how much they need it.
Right.
Earlier we made jokes about how we didn't want a doctor to be an improviser, but realistically the kind hearts that improv builds, the openness to things that happen around you,
the listening skills.
I mean, even just being able to be without worrying about I've taught so many students the art of being the person who maybe says 1 or 2 words on stage. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be, you don't have to say 100 things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had this doctor who I did an improv training. She came up at the end. She was like, oh, this is great. I took an improv class actually a while ago, and I've been using this stuff, and here's what I do. I sit down with my patients, and I'm like, so what's going on? And what else? And what else? And what else? She's like, they love it. They think I'm the best doctor in the world. And it's
sure.
And it's because no doctors they're in a huge time crunch.
Yeah.
But it's counterintuitive because they think by shutting down conversations, they'll have less time spent with the patient. But it's kind of doesn't work because patients wait, I want to get you. I'm trying to say this stuff, So yeah, it's really basic, but I think it's really powerful.
Super important.
And I also want to say that the Hideout, the people that are running the Hideout now are doing an amazing job, and it's one of my favorite places
current
to
team
play.
is a wonderful place.
I love to show up there and just play. It's a delight.
Oh, and I mean, bad history aside, the Fallout team is wonderful as well.
Yeah.
I am glad that you're doing shows here. I'm glad that everyone's doing shows here. I'm glad that, even Hideout. Can I just say that when everything kind of went crazy, Hideout caught me and took care of me.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know what to do. I was very much like, I don't, what's happening? Like, the ground beneath me crumbled and fell, and everyone turned to me and was like, what do you think we should do? And I was like, I don't know. Everything I thought was the truth is not the truth. And now all this stuff. And so I was like, I have a show. I was doing the neighborhood still. And I was like, I have shows. I have shows written and ready to happen. Can we even be in the building anymore?
You're like, I have another 18 years before I'm a new person.
Right.
This is not the right time for this.
Guys, I'm not 54 anytime soon. Yeah. But so, I was like, what is happening? And Roy was like, you can do the shows with us for a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
So they gave me a space. They gave me a Saturday night slot from nothing. I was like, guys, listen, give me a Tuesday. I get it. Give me a different day. I don't know what's happening in my life. Yeah. The fact that you're allowing me to do what I care about as a treading water is great. And we did those shows, and it's such a funny, 2 blocks away, and the audience couldn't be more different.
Really? Yeah.
Could not be, because they were just like, I don't know what's happening right now. We're doing these things, and we think they're hilarious, and there's people, and they're like, what? And so I was like, all right. I gotta take a class here and figure out what these people want, because I know what the people in the weird basement two blocks down want.
Right.
But but they saved me. They're good people, and it really just made me feel better. And that's why I'm glad I'm talking to you too, because it's like I was held back from talking to a lot of people for a long time, and now it's like I need to talk to everybody. Yes. I need to become friends. There are people who have reached out to me for years, people who are like, but maybe we could still be friends. I'm like, no, let's be friends. Yeah. But, never here.
Yeah, I think part of the special DNA of Austin Improv is there was a period of time when all the past improv venues closed down. So Comedy Sports, Playhouse at North Cross Mall, Bad Dog Comedy on Riverside, Improv at the Velveeta Room on 6. Everything collapsed down to the Hideout. So there was this period of time when all the 5 families we're not the 5 families yet, but we're all at the Hideout, and Andy Crouch was kind of leading this kind of Austin Improv collective thing. So, Asaf and Tom were there, who eventually started the institution, and Dave and Rachel and Erica and Bob and Jastro and Arthur, they were there, and they eventually, opened Cold Town, and and I was there doing that stuff, and I eventually opened Merlin Works. So so all those leaders had all played together and hung out together in some form or fashion, and I think that's part of what makes it a, ooey gooey, groovy community. It's so big now, it's hard to hang out at other people's spaces or catch everything that's going on or know everybody. It used to be that you could know everybody and could be in the cool show that was happening, and that is no longer possible, which is awesome.
There's so much that's going on. It's I don't even know anything.
But I feel like the good vibes underneath are part of that history,
Yeah, and I think that the art definitely lends itself to that. I've heard a lot of negative things. I've experienced a lot of negative things. Mm-hmm. There are bad people in the world, yes, who will take advantage of open hearts. Mm-hmm. But I think the bulk, certainly in this town, of people are just want to do happy things, nice things, enjoy themselves. And, like you said earlier, make sure your students are having fun.
Yes, that's what I say. Rule number 1, have fun.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
It was really great to talk to you.
Super fun.
Good. Thanks for listening to Yes But Why podcast.
Check out all our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com or check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.